The game TRG. What's this? Tech Radar by Demi Williams. Fable director explains what makes this RPG a fairy tale rather than a straight fantasy like The Witcher. Fairy tales are intimate, they're small stories about regular people. I think that's a brilliant description of what Fable really is. That is a long title. Maybe bring that down, Demi. Cut that down to like something more digestible. And yeah, this is about Fable, the upcoming game Fable. I don't think it's a remake. I think it's a sequel. Fable finally arrives later this year, so it's coming out this year. Okay. Playground Games general manager and Fable game director Ralph Fulton has called the upcoming game an open-world fairy tale rather than a grand and sweeping fantasy story that players might be used to. Following the Xbox developer direct on January 22, where Playground Games finally announced that Fable will launch in fall 2026 for PC, Xbox Series X, Xbox Series S, and PS5. How many series does Xbox need? Fulton divulged a ton of new information about the role-playing game, RPG for short, in an interview with Xbox Wire. When asked what the essence of Fable is, Fulton explained that Playground borrowed from the original trilogy created by Lionhead Studios and decided to lean heavily into the series' classic fairy tale style. Well, that would be nice. I don't think they can do it. And I think maybe legally, because since it changed companies, so there's definitely going to be things that they can't do, and all that legally has to be distinct and all that. So I don't think it's ever going to be. And also the people who made the original Fable are not the same as the people making the same. So this sequel, remake, whatever. So it's not going to be the same. It's not really going to feel the same, and it doesn't necessarily mean that a bad thing necessarily. We'll wait till it actually comes out to see what it's like, because even if it's not like in exactly the same feeling or whatever of it, doesn't necessarily make it a bad game. It's more like gameplay and stuff and story and things. So I'm willing to give it a chance. I'm accepting it's not going to be the same, and I hope they don't try to claim that it would be the same, because it's not going to be. There's no way it can be. But I'm willing to give it a chance. We came up with a bunch of things, the first of which I would say we actually inherited from Lionhead. When we started working on this project, we got a treasure trove of documents from Lionhead that had been in storage. Fulton said, something that I thought was just brilliantly succinct. That's a word I haven't really seen out in the wild. You don't really encounter many useful, but I guess high profile words. Would you call it like that? Like high profile as in what do I mean high profile? I don't know, whatever. It's just it's you don't come across words like that too often. Succinct was one of the documents which said Fable is fairy tale, not fantasy. Okay, which is super neat. The game director explains that the Playground's interpretation, fairy tale and fantasy, probably exist on opposite ends of a spectrum, suggesting that Fable will deal with smaller, intimate stories instead of something you'd expect from other grand fantasy tales. I think we all know that what fantasy is. It's The Witcher, it's Skyrim, it's Lord of the Rings, it's Game of Thrones, and I think tonally it's quite grand. It's sweeping, it's geopolitical, it's serious. You can almost picture the color palette of fantasy, he said. I suppose. Yeah. Yeah, I guess I would associate the word fantasy with things like Lord of the Rings and fairy tales are more for like nursery rhymes and stuff. Alright, I guess I can understand where he's coming from here. And then fairy tales exist right at the opposite end of that spectrum. Fairy tales are intimate. They're smaller stories about regular people. They're not grand and sweeping. They're very personal and whimsical, and ultimately they deal with what happens when magic touches the lives of ordinary folks. And also they have this kind of moral component to them. And I think that is a brilliant description of what Fable really is. It runs through our art style. It runs through our world building. We've really executed against that fairy tale idea in every part of the game that we're building. You're executing fairy tales? That was dumb. In Fable, players will be able to explore the land of Albion, an immersive, medieval-like world with choices and consequences, reputation, and fairy tale endings. I think I can agree with his definitions of fantasy and fairy tale, but like Fable the game, like that is bigger. Like that would be bigger than a fairy tale, wouldn't it? Like it's not just about this one guy. Like you, there's like whole other characters having their own adventures while you're like there's a whole world and story and lore and stuff out there too. So I don't know if I would call Fable a fairy tale. Or maybe he means the game that the Fable they're making is going to be more fairy tale like. From the new trailer, it's clear that Albion will be rich with new discoveries, but Fulton stressed that players will still be able to take their time enjoying the world, despite the game having stakes. He explained that the events of the game start to unfold after an inciting incident, which he calls the catalyst for the story, where the player's grandma and everyone in the village they grew up in is turned to stone by a mysterious stranger. That's kind of the same as the first Fable game, isn't it? Except it's attacked and everybody dies, except, well, no, his dad dies. Then you go to the Hero Academy for like a few minutes, and then you... that old Fable game, a lot more was promised from it than it delivered. So I'm assuming this is going to keep up with the tradition. Wasn't that a Peter Molyneux game? The guy who has trouble with promising more than he could deliver. Yeah, I think that was Peter Molyneux, wasn't it? Yeah. The player is then left alone and forced to venture out into the world. It's suggested that you visit Bowerstone, the Heroes Guild. However, the game director explained there's nothing forcing the players to go along that path first. So you have to go there eventually? So there's a soft implication that you should head for the Heroes Guild, and maybe there's help that they can give you, Fulton said. But the nature of our game is that as soon as you leave your village, you can go pretty much anywhere. It's truly open world, so the world is yours to explore. And we've written the story so that although there are stakes, your grandmother, your village, there's no ticking bomb. So can you just avoid the main quest altogether? Like in Bethesda games? Or like I said, you don't have to go there right away. So do you have to go there eventually is my question. How open is this world? I guess is the question. Because like I'm fine with this being like an on-rails thing, just like the other games were. So there's nothing forcing you along the path because we want to allow the player to the permission to just go and do something else in the game. You could go to the most northerly village in Albion, get a job, settle down, and get married if you want. The story will wait for you, which I think is really important with the really rich side activities that Fable games come with. I mean, okay, but doesn't that kind of defeat the purpose of the story? Like, most main stories have, like, I guess non-Bethesda game main stories have, like, more urgency to them. And in this Fable kind of game, I don't know if you could actually do that, but it might be pretty cool if you could have, like, the story is unfolding while you're going off on doing something else, doing your own thing. And then, I don't know, maybe when you finally decide to start the main story, the bad guy already won because you weren't there to stop him or something. I wonder if you could do that. Is that the end? Demi William? Demi is a freelance game journalist for Tech Radar Games. He's been a game writer for 5 years and has written outlines. I guess that's a writer. Yeah, oh, we have comments. Thank you so much. Fable is a good game. Example of what video games should be out there. No. It doesn't have to be what games should be. It's just it can be something you put out there and people can play it if they want, but they shouldn't make all games exactly like Fable. Reliving the players get man. Just look at all the babies here already, so they get hate. What hate? I just know it's gonna be filled. Nah. The comment. You know what? Never read the comments, except mine. Read my comments and make a comment for my videos, please. Yeah. Well, yeah, the Richard Iowata, whatever his name is in there. The guy from IT Crowd. Yeah, he's a funny guy. I like him. He was in the first trailers when they had. I think this was before they decided to add a character creation to the game. He was like playing a giant, and there was like a twist ending where he was actually a giant and the player was a tiny little thing. And yeah, well, there's for that. This is more of like an advertisement than a real discussion of fantasy versus fairy tales. So. All right, I don't know. What do you guys think? What's the difference between a fantasy and a fairy tale? I can see where he's coming from with the fairy tales being like smaller, more intimate stories. But I don't think you can really do that with a big open world game like this, if that's what it's going to be. It's like fairy tales are very lore light. Fantasy is like more lore heavy. Like in a fairy tale, you can have like what's a fairy tale? What's a known fairy tale? The wolf, the Little Red Riding Hood. Like you can just have like a story about Little Red Riding Hood going through the forest, going to grandma's, and having grandma replaced by a wolf. You don't need to go deep into the lore, like who is this wolf? Why does this wolf want to eat this one girl in the whole big forest? Why does grandma live in a forest of evil where wolves want to eat kids? Where like, you don't need to explain things like that. It's just like a little thing just to entertain kids or yeah, I guess kids. In fantasy, it's like there's more lore. It goes deeper into the lore about the world and stuff. I guess I can kind of agree. What do you think? Yeah, well, you tell me what's the difference of the fairy tale and the fantasy? Is there a difference? What is the difference? What's your favorite fantasy? What's your favorite fairy tale? The comment below. And leave a like and whatever, and L stuff and all that things, and do all the stuff you do for other people, but for me, on my channel. Yeah, thanks. I appreciate it. Okay,